Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Comedy Store 50th anniversary year. It's the whole year. It's the 50th. The Comedy Store started in 1972. We got some comedians here. I didn't prepare a lot of questions because they're comedians, and the questions will probably fucking just go whatever. So we got David Lucas. We got Angel Salazar, Eleanor Kerrigan, Dean Delray. We got George Wallace, Maz Jobrani. We're waiting on Jesus Trejo and Fortune. So I guess we'll go down the line. David Lucas, when did you get to the Comedy Store?
Uh, 2011.
Angel, when did you get to the Comedy Store?
Same time I started shooting the movies cafes, 1983. No, 1982.
Well,
82.
wow. Eleanor, when did you get to the Comedy Store?
1993, March.
Dean Delray.
December 2009.
Wow. George Wallace, when did you get to the Comedy Store?
The same year you were born. I'm your real daddy, 1977.
Oh shit! Oh shit! And Maz Jobrani.
1999, another summer, 1999.
Wow, wow.
Damn.
There she
Wow.
is,
Fortune.
Fortune. Fortune.
Yay.
Sorry, guys, my computer would not work, so I'm trying this on my phone.
This looks good. Can you hear us?
Yeah, I just
So,
trying to
what
get
year
this
did you
thing.
get? What year did you get to the Comedy Store?
2007.
Wow. You know everyone here. We all know everyone. Who doesn't know everyone?
I don't know any of
Hi, you
these
guys.
fuckers. None of them.
When
So,
Angel was shooting Scarface, my buddy was being full Scarface at the Comedy Store, like 80, 84 down there, just rolling sacks.
wow.
Wow.
So yeah.
Wow.
So this is
I
a
remember.
big. You remember? Go.
I
He just
remember
remembered, that's
Eleanor.
it.
Eleanor. No,
Of
Eleanor.
course, Angel
Didn't you used to
remembers
be?
Eleanor.
No, but didn't you used to be a waitress?
Yes, sir. Absolutely. For 12
Okay.
years. And I
That
was
I
Mitzi's
remember.
assistant for a while. Yeah, you
Mm-hmm.
remember. Thank you
Yeah.
for remembering,
Okay.
Angel.
I
See,
All
I
remember
still used to
Eleanor.
bring sales left.
Fortune remembers Eleanor.
Doing
Well,
push-ups
well,
before sets.
well, fortunately, I know I was there at a good time when the Comedy Store was really, really rolling. Just before it moved to Westwood Store and came back to Sunset and the uh, uh, the having the let's put it like this: I got to watch the greatest comedian in the world bomb for 5 weeks in a row. I got to watch Richard Pryor bomb,
Wow.
bomb 5 nights in a row. David Letterman, Jay Leno, all of the guys you know now. I happened to be there with them in 1977. John Witherspoon. I could go through some names. Sam Kinison, and just go through. So I'm glad you guys are later on, but I started at the Comedy Store when it was just at its original phase, and what a great time it was to follow Johnny Carson, to follow Rodney Dangerfield, Flip Wilson, Red Fox. So I'm ahead of
Wow.
you guys, and it's so good to meet you young guys that are carrying on right now. And I'm glad I've been doing it for 46 years, and to watch you young
Wow.
guys do what you do. How awesome is it? I mean, I've seen you guys work, and I don't know some of you, but God bless you. It's a great world of being that we live in.
Yes, sir.
George, real quickly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
First of all,
And I and I,
someone's got their TV on in the back. So turn your TV off. Secondly, George Wallace is not just you're not just legendary on stage. You're one of the funniest people on Twitter. We all
Yes.
love you, George. We watch you, we
Oh,
love
thank you,
you,
sir.
and
Yeah.
so it's
And not
beautiful,
and
man.
so
You're
and whatnot and whatnot and whatnot.
oh, it's the best. It's the best.
Well, thank you so much, man.
I,
Thank you.
I I got to the Comedy Store when cocaine was good.
There you go. No fentanyl back
Hey,
in the day, huh, Angel?
now, now listen, Eleanor, you probably remember. He said cocaine. That's back in the day when everybody hung out in the back of the Comedy Store. Sam
Yes.
Kinison, Richard Pryor. Keep going with these names back in the front of this Comedy Store. David Letterman, George Wallace. People that didn't do drugs, we hung out in the front.
Right.
The drugs were in
They
the back.
separate it.
Yeah, yeah.
Hey George,
And
tell them, George, Angel, and Maz, and tell them what my mom was like when she was kind of running the business, and she would pull up her car, and Argus would be there, and Danny Stone, and the whole thing. Can you tell, Fortune and the viewers, and what that was like? Yeah, with her Jaguar and stuff.
but the Jaguar, yeah, the Jaguar would pull up and everybody would be there to take the car. Jamie Klein. How many babysitters did you have, Paulie?
Oh,
All of these
wow.
guys, Argus Hamilton. Yeah, it was wonderful back in the day. I remember when I auditioned at the Westwood store, I ripped the place apart. And apparently Mitzi got me mixed up with somebody. I said, "How did I do?" She says, "Well, you're not right for the room." So I said, "What is it?" She says, "You're not right for the room."
George, what was
I'm
special
sorry.
about my mom? What was special about my
Well,
mom?
what was special about your mom? She told me I wasn't right for the room. I says, "I know I killed that place," and I called in 656-6225 back in 1977. I said, "I'm getting on this damn show." She told me I wasn't right for the room. I called in. I got 5 spots every week for the next 6 months. I said, "Okay."
George, when she made me, first of all, when she was, I was made a regular in 1999, I believe. And first of all, everybody feared Mitzi, your mom, like she was a mob boss, like she was the godfather, but
Right.
godmother. Like when she walked through that hallway, every comedian would it was like part in the Red Sea, because it was like Moses is coming through. Everyone would go to the corner and
Yeah,
be like, "Oh my God, I hope she doesn't." A lot of comics were like, "I hope she doesn't like see me and not like me and then ban me for some
exactly.
reason." And when she made me a regular, George, I was one of the first comedians that was of a Middle Eastern background that got made a regular. And I remember walking by. I've
Yeah,
told this story before.
we were all wondering why the fuck would she put him on. No, I'm just kidding.
Exactly.
Oh, don't worry.
Me too, George. As I went by, check this out. As I went by, people that don't know, so Mitzi would sit in the back corner chair by the exit sign. You would do 3
Yeah,
minutes. They would say, "Come back and do 6 minutes. Come back and do 10 minutes." Once you've done 10 minutes, if she likes you, she'll grab your arm and pull you in. If she lets you walk past her, you're done. See you in a year, 2 years. Go figure something
yeah.
else out. So I'm walking past her. I'm like, "Oh, please hold my arm." And I was a huge Eddie Murphy fan, and I knew Eddie performed there. And I was like, "Oh my God, if I become a regular, my life is going to just change." And as I'm walking by
Yeah.
Mitzi, she reaches out, she grabs my arm. I go, "Oh shit, it's happening." She pulls me close. She goes, "You're very funny." I go, "Thank you, Mitzi." She goes, "I'm going to make you a regular." I go, "Thank you, Mitzi." And then she goes, "Have you thought about wearing the outfit?" And I go, "What outfit?" She goes, "The hat and the gown." She wanted me to wear a turban and a dishdasha on stage like a Saudi sheikh. And I was like, okay. And I just walked to the back of the hall and I was like, what do I do now? And it became a few weeks of negotiations with Corey, who was the booker back then. Corey called me. She goes, "I heard you're wearing the
Negotiation.
outfit." I was like, "Corey, I really don't want to wear the outfit." And she's like, "Well, then you're not going to get any spots." So basically, I came up, George, with this lie where I said to them, I told Corey, I said, "Corey, tell Mitzi if I wear the outfit and some like extremist Muslims find out there's a guy making fun of them at the Comedy Store, they might come kill me. They might blow the place up." And so
Yeah.
Corey calls me back. She goes, she goes, "Hold on a second. Let me call Missy." She calls Missy, calls me back. She goes, "You know what? Just wear something comfortable. You'll be fine." And that was it.
Yeah.
No
Because
outfit.
Maz wasn't that during the day of the Iran crisis where there was a split between American and Iran, but they didn't know who you were. They just associated you with
Right.
being Persian, right? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So
Yeah.
it was
Hey,
just, it was
Moz.
fun.
Gene,
Yeah.
Moz, you were at the Comedy Store in '99. You were past it at like 1 year there.
Yeah, so basically I started 98 and I became, it was either late 99 or early 2000. Because the reason I remember that is because, and I should know the exact date, but I think I was probably dealing with this negotiation. But the reason I remember all that is because Mitzi, Pauly, your mom, in the year 2000, she happened to be watching
Yes.
CNN, and there was an uprising with the Palestinians and the Israelis. They're fighting each other. And all of a sudden, she reaches out to me through Duncan, who was then the booker, and she goes, I want to do a Middle Eastern night. And I was the only Middle Eastern comic on at the club at that point. She'd seen Ahmed. I'd seen Aaron Cater. I knew Sam Tripoli was something. I didn't know what. He's half Armenian. So we got all these people in, and Mitzi created the Arabian Nights
alien.
before September 11th. She goes, there's going to be a need for a positive voice of Muslims very soon. This is before 9/11. So she was a visionary when it came to that. So that was, I owe a lot to her for that.
Wow.
Well, also the Fat Tuesday documentary came out recently, and it was similar to that. I think Guy started it up in the belly room, and then
Belly room.
she gave him that night, and he really
95.
developed it. Yeah, he really developed it and brought it down to the main room. So my mom was very much into themes, even when she did the Vegas Dunes. I know, George, you played that. There was a lot of theme shows. She had an Angel. You played the Dunes in Vegas. And what was that like? The whole Dunes run. It was about a 5-year run, and she started that. She did a lot of comedy stores, a lot of places that people don't know. I know she did one in Sherman Oaks. She did one in Hawaii, and then and obviously the
And
La
then
Jolla
down in
Club.
San Diego.
Yeah, in San Diego. But George, tell the people about the Dunes Hotel. What a special room that was, and Angel, I know you played the Dunes, and Fortune, the Dunes was awesome. It was like Roseanne Barr,
I bet.
fucking Arsenio,
I want a
Dice.
comedy store in Sherman Oaks again.
Yeah.
Listen, everybody, going to the Dooms coming from Los Angeles, going to the Dooms coming from the store in Los Angeles was like you went to Vegas. That was like the summit. And it was a beautiful hotel, and it was the first room, seated about 600 people. It was awesome. You were a legitimate star working that room when Mitzi brought you into the Dunes, and everybody would fly in to see the shows.
And then Dean, Dean, when did you get there? You got there, and what was it like? Because the thing that's interesting about Dean that you guys might not know is he started really late, and he knew he started really late. But you had this drive in you, and you worked the store so much, and you really wanted to get up there, and you made it pretty fast at the store, right?
Yeah, I started when I was 44. I stepped on the patio. I remember there was a heavy hazing for a year solid. No one talked to me.
That's right.
It's just like they would try to rip on me when they were hosting, because they were trying to do like the old school host of like,
Right. Mitch Walters and people,
just rip on people. So I just, what they didn't understand was I loved comedy so much. And if it would have been easy, I probably would have lost interest. But since it was hard, it gave me this drive of like, fuck these guys. And it made me
there you go.
hard. And I buckled down, and eventually they started to see that I wasn't, like a part-timer. I was there 7 nights a week till 4 a.m. Back then, they didn't close the store until people left. So,
Wow.
there'd be chaos and shit going. And I was 44, and these guys were in their 20s. But eventually, we all bonded over comedy. And I remember one of the magic nights was the room was really bad, the open mic, and Pauly was like, put Dean on, crack this place open. And I was like, oh no. And I went on and had a great set, and I slowly started to gain the respect, and I knew I earned it. And it saved my life, because at 44, all my friends had kids and they were going to soccer practice and shit. And I was like, nah, I want to fucking do comedy. And I always wanted to do it. I hung at the Comedy Store in the 80s. I saw Dice and Kinnison and all of that shit. I was in there. So it was a dream come true. And in 4 weeks or so, I'm going to shoot a Netflix special. So it's just like,
nice.
I'm 56 years old, man.
Really?
Yeah.
And I fucking made it in that room. And I told people, I don't care if I'm famous. My name is on that wall, man. My name's on that wall. That means more to me than anything,
Yeah. Fortune, Fortune, you and I met probably 10 years ago, probably, right? When you started coming around. And how long you've been doing stand-up? And you've
I
done
think
really
so.
great. Yeah, you've done really great in the last 10 years. You've really kind of created your own thing, and you got on Netflix, and you became a store regular. What was that like? And how long you been doing stand-up before you became a paid regular at the store? Because you're a very special part of the store, yeah.
Oh, thanks, Pauly. I started stand up actually at the Comedy Store. 2007. I had never done it before. I was doing improv at the Groundlings, and that was kind of my path, was sketch comedy and improv. And I ended up taking a class from Adam Barnhart, and the
Woohoo.
final performance was in the Belly Room, and that was my first time ever doing stand up. And then I ended up popping on his show that he was doing, that regular Sunday night show in the Belly Room.
Yeah.
So for like a year and a half, I did Adam's show every Sunday night. I would do the music for all the comics, and then he would give me 10 minutes. So Eleanor was there, popping in a
Yep.
lot, doing sets. And at the time, the Belly Room was kind of sort of that alt scene, a little bit more like women and gay people,
Yeah.
and the OR seemed like, miles away, even though it was downstairs. But it allowed me to really build my set. And so after about 2 years, guys at the store like Brett Ernst started like vouching for me, to like Tommy. He would be like, "You gotta let her audition for Mitzi. You gotta let her come down to the OR and stuff." And then um, he did, and I showcased. I think at the time Tommy was showing the videos to your mom, and she said interesting, and then that was what he would always say. Mitzi said interesting. I was like, well, I'll take that. And so then they made me a regular in the Belly Room on Friday nights. That was my first step. And then in 2010, they made me a paid regular.
Wow. So you've been
And
there a
yeah,
Yeah.
while.
it's
You've been
amazing.
there over.
Hey, you know what? I'll tell you what. I used to watch Fortune. I'd sat in the OR every night, watched everybody, and I'd be like, "This woman's a killer. Fucking just
Aw,
great style, and different amongst the
see?
lineup. Come on, it would just be like, this is amazing, man. I just loved watching people like Fortune or Ali Wong or Sebastian early on, before any kind of
Mm-hmm.
specials. And I would say, wow, these people they got different rhythm and stuff, you know?
Yeah.
Hmm.
Oh, thanks,
And then
Dean. I mean, I loved it, but it was like it was so hard, like doing those sets at like 1 in the morning in the OR for like four drunk guys.
Oh,
But honestly,
The
that
best.
room did make me so much stronger. Like, I don't know that I would have been able to start touring in the way that I did had I not had all those late nights in the OR just trying to impress,
Right.
all these drunk
I
guys.
Fortune, I tell everybody who starts, every time there's a young comic, I go, you got to get up at midnight or 1. What Mitzi
Yep.
used to do to us, like I used to be put on
Mhm.
at like at that late night after like Dice and then Joey Diaz and Rogan and all these guys who were going hardcore. And I'd be
Mhm.
up trying to do jokes about the Iraq War. I'd be like, yeah, look at George Bush, blah,
Right.
blah, blah. And the people would just stare at me like, what the hell is he talking about? And it wasn't until one night in particular, I remember this night really well. I got on at 1:45 and the club closed at 2. And I went up intending to do
Mhm.
my act. And there was these two nerdy looking guys with this really good looking girl side, and that was the only audience except for Freddie Soto, who was sitting in the very
Yes.
back. And I went on stage and I started
Mhm.
doing my act, and these two nerdy guys and the one good looking girl, they're just kind of staring at me like, "What are you talking about?" And then I just stopped doing my act and I turned to them. I go, "How did you two end up with her? What's going on?" Then it became this whole thing. Now we're laughing.
Right.
Now I'm roasting. Now we're going. Sets over. They have a good time. They leave.
Yeah.
Lights come up. Freddie's sitting in the back. He goes, "Come sit next to me." I sit next to him. And Freddie Soto, as we all know, is one of the greatest comics at the Comedy Store. And we've
Do
lost him since.
something.
But he was amazing, man. And he told me as I sat next to him, he goes, "You're funny." I go, "Thanks." He goes, "You know what? It's not about the bit. You're either funny or you're not." He goes, "You abandoned your act and you made it a fun night for these guys." And it stuck in my head from then on. It was like every time I'm at the Comedy Store, you watch. I mean, that's the beauty of the Comedy Store, Pauly. It's the best gym in the world for you to learn to
Work
get
out.
off your set, talk to the audience, try something, fail. That's why she blinds you with those lights so you don't see anybody. You're just in your own world. So it really is a magical place. And I tell everybody, I go get that 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock spot in front of 2 drunk people. If you can make them laugh, you're gonna be able to make a 10,000 seater laugh.
I never got that.
Very
I
true.
never got that spot because my mom owned the club. I always got the spot right after Argus. Anyways, so David, I got the easy
So
spot.
Pauly,
Lucas,
Pauly,
yeah.
Yes.
Pauly, two things you mentioned. Pauly, you mentioned something that they don't know about. You mentioned to them a paid spot. I'm there before anybody was paid. We could care less about being paid back in the day. We just wanted to get on that stage no matter what. Dean, you mentioned you hung out at the Comedy Store. That's the key. When you love, it's got to be in you. We were at the Comedy Store. Whether you were booked on stage or not, you were there 7 nights a week, no matter what. A fallout. You just stand around for a fallout. You love, it's got to be in you. You can't want to be a comedian. You got to be a comedian. There's no question about
Yep.
it. 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the morning, 4 people, 8 people. I don't give a shit. I'm going on that stage. And that's what we learned
Yep.
at that Comedy Store. Sit around and waiting for
Yeah.
those spots.
Well, yeah, and
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
David Lucas,
What's
you've
up,
come
buddy?
really far. David, I'm really proud of you. I've seen you really
Thank you,
grow. I
buddy.
remember when you first came out there, you came up to me and you gave me a hug. You're really sweet, and I'm like, oh, here's another fucking guy that's coming at the store. But you really just because you see so many guys come and go, and you really kind of made a name for yourself, and you're on the road, and you're fucking killing it. You got a great reputation on stage. Tell us about when you first started and what that was like at the store and where you're at now, and
All
and
right. So
the store paving your way. Yeah.
So I came to LA straight out of high school in 2009, and I took the train from Reseda. I lived on Sherman Way in Tampa. I came to because everybody told me like you got to go to the Comedy Store, but I didn't know how it worked. Being a country boy from Macon, Georgia, they were like you got to go to the Comedy Store. So the first time I ever went to the Comedy Store was in 2009 around May. And I went at like 2 p.m. Nobody was there, and I hung out, and nothing happened. And then I went all the way back to Sherman Oaks. So then I moved back home to get my stuff together. And then I came back in 2011, and
Jesus is here. Jesus.
Hey,
I
Seuss
there
in
he
the
is. What's
agree.
up,
house.
Jesus?
Yeah.
And I came
Jesus.
back. I came back in like 2011. I believe Tommy was the booker, and he started giving me spots and everything. And then like a few years later, I stopped doing comedy because I had a daughter. And when I came back to comedy in 2017, it took me 1 year to get back in the rotation. And then I went back to the Comedy Store, and that's when Adam started giving me spots. And then I got on Kill Tony. And that's when I met Pauly in 2018. And then in 2019, I became a door guy at the Comedy Store. And then, of course, in 2020, the pandemic happened. But, the Comedy Store is responsible, because like right now, I opened for Rogan and Louis C.K. and Brendan Schaub. And I met
Yeah.
they all knew of me from the Comedy Store. So that's how I got clicked in with those guys. And I did shows with Pauly, and me and Pauly hang out when I'm in Vegas. And the Comedy Store, I would say, is
Yeah.
responsible for my career that I have now.
Yeah, man, I'm
Hell
so
yeah.
proud of you. And hey, Seuss, what's up? Tell us about when you first started at the Comedy Store and what it means to you, and how you started as the parking the cars and all that shit.
Yeah, so I started there at the Comedy Store. I was hanging out. I was hanging out for a couple years before I got hired, and I ended up working the parking lot. That's usually where I ended up. Yeah, I mean, I ended up parking cars, but thanks to that parking lot. I mean,
How the fuck?
yeah, I know,
Sorry, we're
two on the
loud.
nose, two on the nose. I get it, but that's where they put me. Yeah, I mean, but thanks to that parking lot, I got to meet everybody. It's like thanks to that parking lot, most of the opportunities that I have now can be like traced back to that parking lot, and it's like I'm very grateful. But I picked up any shift I could once I was working the door. I mean, I did maintenance, I cleaned the bathrooms, I answered phones. I knew that if I picked up any shift, it was just an opportunity to be there. It was almost like an internship of sorts, but you got paid for it. You know, it's like so instead of just hanging out, I knew I could work, watch the best of the best go up on a nightly basis, and build rapport with all these great comics who I have the privilege of working with now. So.
But when you first started, you were more of like a funny looking guy, and you had the hair, and you didn't have a lot of substance. And then who took you on the road and all that stuff? Tell us about that, because right now
Wow.
you're headlining. I mean, this is a big deal.
I'm still funny looking. I mean, I think you and I probably can relate to that. It's like that never goes away. That's kind of the shtick when we go on stage. So yeah, this is a roast.
When you go to comedy clubs, you still want to park the cars before you go on, right? No,
I'll be lying if I said no. I usually end up cleaning tables between shows. Sometimes when
a
I
little
show
extra
up to a
money,
comedy
man.
club, I end up
That's
cleaning
some extra
tables.
money.
I'm like, I don't know. This is what they meant by do a clean set. So. But yeah, it's like that. Those habits that were like kind of formed at the store. I mean, they don't go away. It's like when I go to a club now, and I'm very fortunate to do weekends now. It's like I end up connecting with the staff. It's just because of my upbringing there at the store. Cleaning tables, busting tables. So I don't know. It's cool. It's like once a door guy, always a door guy.
I see.
Hey, speaking
And
of
then
those
Eleanor.
guys, George.
Angel has security with him in case he gets slapped.
No.
all
I
right?
want to ask George a question. No, because Jesus just spoke about door guy. George,
Your
were you
guy.
there
Yeah.
when David Letterman used to be the doorman?
David Letterman, he
Letterman?
had just crossed over to be the man. David Letterman's the weatherman. He was the headliner of the evening when I got there. He and Jay Leno. When I got there, you had a Jamie Klein and John Witherspoon were the head doorman. If you were the doorman spot, that was like really learning and training more than anything, man. You were control of the room. You were controller, and you had your spots. You had your chance to MC. So that was a great spot to be a doorman. So Harris Pete, what great doorman did we have? Some of you guys grew up with, yeah.
Blake Clark.
There was
Blake
Blake
there was
Clark,
a
yeah.
doorman who's big heavy set guy doorman that smoked cigars. He used to drive Mitzi crazy with a cigar.
Harris Pete. Harris Pete.
That was Harris Pete. That was Harris
Harris
Pete.
Pete. Yes.
Yeah, the professional wrestler fan, Harris Pete with the big
That's me.
cigars.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was
And then
David Letterman's
Eleanor.
best friend at the time.
And Missy tells Harry, "Hey, get your cigar out of my face."
Yeah, but he held that door for over 8 years. About 8 years, I think he ran that door. Did he not?
Oh, longer than that. But yeah.
And I heard
Yeah.
the doorman made really good tips, right? Like if you give a booth, like they would get tips to see people in booths and stuff.
Are we able to talk about that? Are we able to talk about that?
You're not talking about that. Yeah.
I don't know if we're able to talk about that.
Eleanor, you have a pretty crazy.
Yes.
Eleanor's got a pretty crazy story because she started off just working there, almost like. I mean, there's not a lot of.
Just waiting tables.
There's not a lot of. Wait, listen. There's a lot of comedians that started off as the door person. They started off answering phones. They started parking cars, but not a lot of comedians started off being a server, and then 20 years later shifted into stand-up. So you're the only one, right?
I think so. Well, I remember like working for your mom. I started out as a waitress. Then I got close with Mitzi, and she just took me on because I didn't want to be a comic. I didn't have an agenda. So she was like, she trusted me, I guess. And we got really close. And I had no interest in being a comic. I worked there for 12 years. I remember Freddie Soto would say every night, you should start doing comedy.
Do something. Do something. Do something.
You're telling jokes in the kitchen. Do something else. Come on the road. And I'm like, you're miserable. I don't want to be with you.
Yeah.
I like being a waitress. I'm trying to be an actress. And then, like working with Mitzi, I got to witness both sides, like watching her showcase people. I remember when she showcased Sebastian, and he bombed horribly, right? And she passed him, and we were like, what are you, high? Like we didn't know what. And then like 3 years later, he turned into what, from taking those late night spots, he became who he is
Mm-hmm.
today. And one day I was talking to her and she goes, I really shocked myself with that one. I was like, oh my God. But it's true. She would pass people and a lot of comics would be like, that's bullshit. I should be passed, not that person.
Right.
And then, she saw what she saw and that was it. So it was
Sure.
neat to see that part and get so close with her and watch her work day in and day out.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was a waitress for 12 years. In 2005, we lost Freddie Soto. Unfortunately, he passed away. And I don't know, I was just going through this crazy change of life, I guess. And I started doing a one person show. And I called Mitzi and I said, can I do it in the belly room? And she was like, yeah. And Adam Barnhart let me. And that's where I met Fortune. And when I was doing it, Dice came to see me and he's like, you're doing stand up, stupid. So I started going on the road with him. He's
You're like, it's
he's
a
very
one-woman
charming.
show.
It's funny is Jeff Scott was on my podcast and he told a story about Sebastian where he said Sebastian was kind of a little bit like a robot, did the same set all the
Right,
time, and he would
right.
go up and he would start every time with the day I had. So one night,
The week
all
I
the
had.
com-
No,
Yeah.
the week I had today.
right.
The week I had today.
That's the
Yeah.
line.
He said the comics all got in the bucket seats one night, and right when he got to the mic and grabbed it, they went, "Oh, the week I had today," and he froze up, and they're all laughing like they roasted him. He's like, "What? Hey, fuck you guys!" And he started roasting each guy. You in your hacky set, and you in that bad
Yep.
shirt. And Jeff Scott said after that,
Oh, wow.
he became a complete different comic and a monster funny dude, man. And I love that story to this
Wow.
day.
Yeah, that's cool.
One of my favorite nights with Fortune, we were working the belly room and we knew she was extraordinary. And we were like, it was Adam Barnhart's belly room. And we knew she was extraordinary. So we were like, Tommy, you have to see her. And Adam's show got canceled. I don't know if you remember this, Fortune. And we went downstairs and we're like, we're going to get Tommy to put you on. And it was a really shitty night in the open mic. And we begged Tommy and he was like, oh, I don't know, because he was a pain in the ass. And so we got him to okay it. And Fortune went up and absolutely destroyed it. We were so excited. It was like, yes, we're running this shit.
That
But
was the
Fortune, man.
craziest thing is, so many of you guys just like rallied around me and it was like, it was the opposite of what you would hear about Hollywood and this business at the store. It was like all these people were like constantly vouching for me to give me an opportunity. It was a pretty incredible thing that you guys did for me.
Well, it's just
that
when you
place
see
is
somebody
straight
that's
family.
good. It really is. If you see somebody that's good and you want that person to be a part of it, you're like, we got to keep pushing for like Jesus,
Eleanor,
even though he can't log in, we got him. No, I'm just kidding. We immediately fell in love with Jesus. We were like, this is a Comedy Store person.
I remember one time too, Eleanor, in the parking lot was that I was parking cars and I remember Russell Peters pulled in, and I was in awe because I had never seen a Phantom Rolls Royce in person.
Oh,
and he
right.
pulls in this, and I was like in shock. I asked two of the comics that were parked in the lot, I'm like, can you move your cars because I gotta park this like this boat in here, and I'm like, God forbid it gets scratched. I'm like, this thing's worth more than my bloodline, And so they were very kind. They were very kind in moving the cars, and then I parked it there, and I was like around the car the whole night, make sure nobody scratched it. And Eleanor went over and was like, hey, I want to introduce you to Jesus, and she introduced me to him. We got to talking, and then like a couple weeks later, I ended up hosting for him at the Improv in Irvine. He's like, hey, are you working next week? I'm like, no, I'm about to do whatever you're about to tell me right now, So I ended up getting my shifts covered and I worked, and I ended up a couple months later opening for him at the Nokia Theater, and that was thanks to the introduction that Eleanor did for me as I'm parking cars for him, and I'll never forget that. But again,
Didn't he give you an iPhone or something and you were like, I can't afford to turn
Yes,
it on?
yes,
Man,
I'll
a,
never
sto-
forget
Oh
that.
man.
It's so sad.
a
Yeah,
story about Russell Peters, man.
Hey,
so yeah, when I opened for him in Irvine, he I'm working with him, and one of the things I'll never forget, he saw the cell phone that I had and the laptop that I had. It was like this gas powered two-stroke laptop looking thing,
Oh.
and so I guess he saw like how much I was like writing and how like passionate I was, and he told me this thing where it's like, this business is very hard, and to stand a chance at this business, you need the proper tools. If you don't have the proper tools, he's like, you don't even stand a chance. So I remember he told his assistant to take me to the Apple store, and there was a cell phone and a laptop waiting for me, and I'm like, oh, I can't take that. Just pay me my host money, my $50 a show, and I'll be out of your way. And then he was like, yeah, I
Yeah.
figured you were gonna be a little prideful. It's like, not take this. Like, this is a genuine like gift, and they took me down, and there was an iPhone and a laptop waiting for me, and I never forget that. And that, again, I keep saying it goes back to
That's
the
amazing.
parking lot, and
Mhm.
he gave me the tools to stand a chance, and if only I can learn how to
Mhm.
work this
Hey,
laptop and log into this thing, that'd be cool too.
Jesus, Jesus, tell him the Christmas tree story.
Oh,
Oh yeah, yeah. So I had been touring with Pauly. I toured with Pauly for like 8 years, and one of the cool things that was really cool that Pauly allowed me to do was like when we got back from the road, it was like around Christmas time. So we landed. I went home, got my car, came back to the store, and we went to go buy a Christmas tree for Mitzi. And I came around the store during the time that Mitzi was not around anymore in the day-to-day business of the store. So it was really cool that Polly allowed me to meet Mitzi, this legend Mitzi, and we got to go buy the tree, and I got to set it up in front of her, and I decorated it, and man, that is like a real special thing because again, my class, I don't know that we got to meet Mitzi, and Polly,
right.
allowed that opportunity for me to set up a tree and decorated it, and I got to talk to her, and it was like, wow. Yeah, I mean, it's like I never forget that. It's like the last time I did it is when we
Yeah,
came
it
back
was
from
real.
Dayton, Ohio.
Yeah, it was really important for
Pauly
me to
hey,
Shore.
to my
hey,
mom. Yeah, well, let me
Pauly
just finish.
hey,
It was
guys.
Shore.
really important. Wait. It was really important for me to bring comedians around my mom because my mom was no longer going to the store. So everyone stopped by. I mean, Bob Saget, Gary Shandling, Arsenio, everyone would come by. Even Eddie Griffin, Tommy Davidson, and then Jesus was opening for me a lot. And I'd always the last 15 years when she wasn't well, I'd always made it a point to stop by and try to bring comedians. To the house, so she could feel that. So yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, so
So
Yeah.
Pauly,
uh,
out of all the guys
yeah,
around Pauly, you grew up. I know you're from 4 years old or whatever. Now you bring around all and every one of the comics that you've seen. You must have a great story living in the comedy store because we lived there at the time and comics living in your home and in Mitch's house. Now you have the story because you've lived with everyone from Richard Pryor, Dave Tyree, Letterman.
yeah.
You
It's
have the
it's
real
Oh,
crazy.
story.
50. Well, it's 50 years. I mean, so it's a 50-year anniversary. So I was 4, when it first started, and I have my dad's shirt on. A lot of people don't, really talk about him,
Yes,
um,
sir.
because he was the one that, he was the one that started it. If there was no Sammy Shore, there would not be a comedy store, period.
Exactly.
Um,
Yes.
and I always like to remind
Paulie,
people, yeah,
now,
yeah.
Paulie,
So go
when
ahead,
your
tell your
dad
story,
bought the
Paulie,
comedy
because this is
store,
important.
The what?
Angel, go Angel.
The
That,
what?
no, before when your father bought the comedy store, it used to be called Cyrus, a gangster place where
Silence.
gangsters used to hang
Yeah.
out.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Because one
But
night
just
upstairs, I saw a ghost.
so,
There were
Eventually that's
ghosts
gonna
at the
come up,
comedy store
huh?
upstairs. There were ghosts. I saw a
yeah.
ghost.
So
Me and Sam Kennison, we ran away from a ghost.
oh, really?
Yeah, because
There's
Cyrus
ghosts in there,
was on
Angel. There's
killing
a
at the
lot of
gangster
ghosts.
joint.
I gotta go,
Yeah.
guys.
No, me and Sam
I love
were.
all you.
Okay, Dean. Good to talk
Bye,
to you, Dean.
I
But
do,
Dean.
I went to the
Say hi
comedy.
to
I do,
Kevin.
I
I do
went.
too. I have to go too, but 50 years is huge. I'm so
Well, then
honored to be a part of the store.
why don't we all wrap it up? We can always continue. I think I want to do these Zoom celebrations throughout the year with different comedians, kind of looking
Yeah.
back.
Okay.
I think it's important because of what's going on in the world with COVID, and this format is a new format. But just because we're not all together, we're together based off of this kind of 8 people and stuff.
Right.
So thank you guys for doing this.
Yeah.
It's a whole year celebration. I want to thank you guys for coming on and trying something different. But this just is pretty much to celebrate my mom and my dad and what they created for the world. And it's an emotional time for me because they're not with us
Yes, sir.
anymore, physically,
Right.
mentally. They're with us, and it's the celebration is going to be beautiful. And we all, especially Eleanor, knows how close my mom was with the store and
Right.
George and Maz. So the store, she's not there anymore, but she's there. I mean, we all
Right.
kind of
Hmm.
respect her, so she's there. And I love my mom. I miss my mom, and but she's still with us. So as long as we just continue
Exactly.
doing what her dream is, and just keep it going for the younger kids like the David Lucas and all the other
For
Yep.
kids,
sure.
and keep it going, because the Comedy Store is it's what is it called, like the major leagues, and
Landmark,
and we
It's an
keep it going.
establishment. An establishment.
Yeah,
establishment, landmark,
It's a
all of that.
legacy. A
Yes.
legacy.
Hey, Paulie, I don't know if I
yeah.
ever
So,
showed you this,
Real
bro,
quick.
but I had this made. Can you see that?
Oh
oh wow,
wow.
that's sick.
That's
That's
cool.
rad.
Oh, is it
I
real
Ah,
love
gold,
that.
dude? Is it real gold? Is it real gold, dude? That's real gold. Oh
No, that's
my.
silver,
Oh
man.
my.
One day it'll be in gold and diamonds.
Bullshit. That ain't no fucking silver.
Tell
yeah.
tell Russell
Yo,
Peters.
yo, yo,
Tell
yo,
Russell Peters.
yo, real
He'll
quick.
get you gold.
Real
Tell
quick.
Russell Peters.
Lot,
Real quick.
lots of love, Paulie.
Yo,
Thanks for
George.
I
having me
love you,
on here,
Paul.
bud.
Hold on. Angel's
Hi,
got one last
Porches.
thing to say.
I'll see you guys at the store. I love you guys.
One real quick.
All
Talking
right,
about
Paulie.
Angel.
history, crazy shit that happened in the main room on the stage. George, were you there that one night that Lenny Schultz juked up a midget?
Oh
Sure, sure.
wow.
I send a lot of shit there at the store. Are you kidding? But Paulie, one day we need 30
Yeah.
minutes from you. You've got more stories. All the people
Yeah,
you've met, you've
absolutely.
got some history. We need to celebrate you, Paulie, for doing what you're doing and stayed at the store, took over the store. You've got the
Thank
story
you.
that everybody needs
Yeah.
to hear. 4 years old. You've heard jokes when they
Yeah.
weren't funny, and you heard them when they turned into being funny. Like I said, watching
Right.
Richard Pryor bomb. Who got the story? Who can say they watched Richard Pryor bomb for 4 weeks in a row? Nothing.
Right.
Wow.
Right.
And the
Yeah.
eighth
And
week he's shooting a show.
Paulie,
What the
who
fuck?
wrote who wrote your first joke?
You and Argus did.
That's great.
I'll see you guys at
We
the
had a
store.
good
I love
run,
you
man.
guys. Thank you for doing
Bye,
this.
guys.
All right,
Thank
love you,
you.
Bye.
Paulie.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.